Chapter 10. What if it just won't break through? This is a tough chapter. How do we explain to our family and even to ourselves when the answer just won't seem to come? What do you do when you're up against the wall and time has almost run out and nothing seems to work? I don't know about every situation, but I can share with you what we discovered when that happened to our family. It was about 6 months after we moved into our miracle mansion, the big house that Rob let us live in nearly rent-free. I had resigned from my full-time job about 8 months earlier, and I was running my video production business full-time. That business was our only source of income, and things were slowing down. Some clients took up to 60 days to pay. Another business venture that I started with a friend was failing, and a new video production business was far too infrequent. All of these elements are not conducive to a stable income, and our money was running out. The fact of the matter was, there just wasn't enough clientele in the area to run a business like mine. After several months, our finances started to dwindle. I mean, like couldn't buy groceries kind of dwindling finances. Our very good friends knew of the situation we were in. They were there walking through it with us, praying for us, with us, counseling us, crying with us. On more than one occasion, they gave us money to get through the month. I kept praying like I always had, declaring success over my business and asking God for a supernatural intervention, but for some reason the answers just weren't coming. It used to be that God would send an answer right away in my business, enabling me to take care of my family, but for some unknown reason nothing was working. To make matters way worse, Rob emailed me the following January to let us know that he was moving back from Texas and would need us out of his house in less than 30 days. We didn't have enough money for a deposit on a rental elsewhere, and our smoke-filled house was currently being rented out to someone else, so we couldn't go back there either. We were out of money, out of food, out of options, and about to be out of a place to live. The next Sunday, I went to church and a guest speaker, Joe Phillips, was speaking and praying for people after the service. We knew him and decided to go up to him afterwards to tell him of our problem and ask for prayer. After he listened to our situation, he said to me, "I know what it's like to be a dad and to be very fearful of being able to take care of your family." He went on to say that he had no advice for the situation, but he once was in a similar place of desperation. He instructed me to listen to a sermon from a well-known speaker, T.D. Jakes, about getting out of your nest. I went home and immediately listened to it. In that message, T.D. Jakes spoke on times in which it seemed that nothing you did was working. You couldn't pray your way out of a situation, you couldn't fast your way out, you couldn't declare your way out, you couldn't rebuke your way out. It's in those times that God is most likely pushing you out of the nest. He's instructing you that it's time to stop relying on your old way of thinking and living. Perhaps it's time to step out in faith in a whole new way that never would happen if you were comfortably taken care of in your current situation. Every species of bird that has ever learned to fly one day needs to leave the nest and try to fly. And a good mother bird will coax the chick to get out of the nest. No more mama bird bringing the worm to you. It's time for you to go and get the worm yourself. That brings me to one very quick point that I already mentioned above. One of the biggest hindrances to many people's faith and growth is the incorrect thinking that God does everything for you. As a father, I do things for my kids and provide for them without them having to do anything. That is, until they start to grow up and have understanding. Then I expect them to take the knowledge I've given them and begin to do things on their own, to accomplish tasks without much help from me. If my son says, "I can't do it, you do it," my response is, "No, God gave you the same brain as me, and I'm teaching you how to use it." God is the same way with us because He's a good father. As I listened to this sermon about getting out of the nest, I remembered a vivid dream I had several years back. It was a dream that I held onto very strongly because in the dream, God was clearly making a path for me to move to California. In those years, I even asked myself and my wife, what kind of circumstance would actually be the catalyst for making me pack all our belongings, uprooting my family, and driving 3,000 plus miles from South Carolina to California? How strong would my faith have to be that this was really what I was supposed to do? This was it. All of these struggles and nothing working out was God pushing me out of the nest, out of my comfortable place of living in South Carolina. He was pushing me to go to the place He had instructed me to go years back. And only becoming so destitute and empty in my current location would cause me to actually make this move. Suddenly, everything was clear. It was time to move to California to fulfill whatever calling it was God had for us there. To prevent us from actually having to live in our van or in someone else's basement, which was an impending possibility, I bought a pretty inexpensive RV with the last bit of credit I had. I was making enough money from online sales each month to cover the monthly payment and some groceries and gas, so that's what we did. When we left Rob's house, we moved our stuff to a storage facility and moved into the RV, my 6-month pregnant wife Jenny, and my 2 sons and my mother-in-law crammed in a 2001 Ford RV that we parked in relatives' and friends' driveways. The first night in the RV, the temperature dropped to below freezing. It was a lot of fun, actually, more like camping. We could stand this for a while, I thought. We stayed a few nights outside our friend's house, then a few weeks outside my dad's house, making preparations to move to California. Altogether, we lived in that RV for about 6 weeks. So what is the answer to the question, what if it just won't break through? Perhaps God is speaking to you about something and you're just not hearing it yet, because what he's saying is so profound that it takes your life being shaken up just so you can hear it. Yes, he is being a good father by pushing you out of the nest. He is being a good father by shaking up your life to get you to grow. The answer to your prayers is coming in a way you never expected it, but you aren't in the right place to receive the answer yet. Receiving the answer in your current place would be a detriment to you, so God is shaking things up. Maybe you want to know how it turned out. How did the crazy faith move across the country pan out? Well, for starters, people thought we were nuts, including family. But after 2 short months in California, we were stable and in an apartment, and I was working as an editor and director of photography for a national PBS television show. This was an opportunity definitely not offered in South Carolina. After that contract, I became a full-time media director at one of the largest churches in Sacramento, where I learned so much about live production and team building. I've filmed for several Jesus Culture albums as well as for Chris McClarney. I've filmed a feature film, produced a web series, and have had countless other opportunities in the media business. I'm writing this chapter 2 years and 9 months after moving to California. I'm currently running my video production company and an online business. We have never thrived so much as we are right now. God is opening doors everywhere we go. Looking back, I would not want my original prayers answered for provision and business where we were 3 years ago, because that would mean that we would miss out on a greater blessing after having learned to fly.